Alright, so welcome back once again to another live episode of Cooking with a Veteran. I'm your host, Dave Rogers, and today I'm going to do a little bit different than what you've been seeing on my show. Normally you'll see me, I'll cook a meal. You know I love my one-pot meals. You know I love my spicy foods. But I can have a bit of a sweet tooth also sometimes, obviously, right? So today I'm going to be talking to you about making pear and cranberry pie. And I'm going to film live now, and then while the ingredients are cooking later on, I'll take a break and then I'll come back and I'll show you about finishing off with the crust. So let's get started. And what do we need? We have our pears, and I have a mixture of pears here. I have some green ones, I have some of the yellow ones, and I have a little bit of the tart brown ones. I like to have a little bit of tart and sweet together. I have my cranberries, okay? I have some cinnamon. I have, and you know, normally I like to use my Irish butter, but this time I have some margarine. Margarine is great for baking. I have my brown sugar. I have my maple syrup. I have my brandy again. You know, I love cooking with my liquors. I have a lemon. I have some vanilla, okay? To start with, you know, a lot of times people ask me, like, how much of something should you put into? And the great thing about cooking something like this, and again, I'm going back to my cast iron pot, all right, which you know I love cooking in my cast iron, is if you take, as you're going along and you're cutting, okay, all of your fruit, I'm simply going to just lay, for now, the pieces that I'm cutting inside of my pan so that I know if I have too little or too much of it. All right, and the recipe normally calls for about 6 pears and about a cup and a half of cranberry, but I'm using my bigger pan. This is my 13.5-inch pan, and I'm going to mix them up as I'm going along. I'm also going to mix up the different pears that I have, whether it's the green one or the yellow one. And I'm basically just going to cut these up and place them around. And what I'm going to do, like normally when you do a dish like this, what you would do is you would mix the cranberries and the pears totally together. I'm going to mix a little bit of the cranberry in with the pear, but as a nice treat, I'm going to actually form kind of a ring with the pears and then put the cranberries in the middle. I think I should have cut some of these before I got started onto the show. And you notice that I'm cutting up the whole pear. You know, I'm not taking the skin off or anything. You know me, I love cooking with the skin when possible. There's some good nutrients and taste within the skin of fruits and vegetables. So that's 3 so far, and it's building up a nice little wall. I'm going to take one of my brown pears here. No, I don't know all the names for all the pears. I apologize, but, you know, I'm more interested in the taste than I am in knowing all the names. And probably another reason why I'm not a chef at some restaurant is because I don't bother to learn the names of everything that I cook. And you might be wondering, you say, you know, you'll say, well, you know, pears are not a typical holiday kind of pie, and that's true, you know, but you know me, I love to cook things that are not typical, okay? You can, if you want, you don't have to use pear. You can replace the pear with whatever fruit that you want. You can use apples, you can use, you know, peaches if you want to make a peach pie. You also don't have to use cranberries, okay? You can switch it up and put whatever you want in there and replace the cranberries. All right, so I'm almost filled here, which is good. I think 2 more pears will be perfect. So it comes out to about 6 pears. See, the recipe wasn't far off. And again, I'm not going to cook these on the stovetop. I know I see a lot of people, they'll cook, like if they're making apple pie, they'll cook it all on the stovetop. I know that causes a problem because I won't really have a bottom crust, and some people like that bottom crust. But for me, I'm fine with not having the bottom crust on a pie. You know, traditionally, when my grandmother used to cook pies, she did a lot of her cooking in her cast iron, and we didn't have a bottom to the pie. All right, so I got my ring, okay, of my pear here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pear and I'm going to put it into a pan where I'm going to mix in all of the liquids and the seasoning for it. And I'm going to do a lot of this mixing by hand, and I'm going to do it also over the pan, so any pieces that fall out fall into the pan. I'm going to put a little bit of my brandy in here, about 1/4 cup of brandy. I'm eyeballing it. I'm going to put in my cinnamon. I'm going to mix this in first. And see some of those pieces that fell out, they just fell right into the pan. And I don't worry about them falling all over the floor. I'm also going to squeeze some lemon juice. Okay, and believe it or not, the lemon juice is going to help break down the acidity. And I'm going to put in now my brown sugar and a little bit, I don't use too much, but about 1/2 cup of maple syrup. And you're really going to have to wash your hands after you do this, because your hands will be filled with sugar and spice and everything nice. Alright, so I got that all mixed in. But before I put it into the pan, I'm going to place a couple of pieces of my margarine around the bottom to help it not stick to the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in my pears. And as you can see, this is pretty simple to make. Okay, I got my pears in there, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour in the extra sauce that was in the bottom. Alright, at this time, I'm going to put in some more butter on top of the pears. And again, like I said, you could use whatever fruit that you want. Sorry, I said butter, I meant margarine. Okay, I got my margarine around there. Now I'm going to take my cranberries, and before I put my cranberries in, I'm going to take just a spoon and a half of some sugar. I'm going to mix it around, and that's to break up some of the tartness of the cranberries. And I'm going to pour the cranberries right into the middle with the sugar on top. And look at that. Okay, looks amazing. I got my oven preheating. Oh, almost forgot. I'm going to take part of my lemon, and I'm going to do some lemon zest along the top. Alright, so I have my oven preheating to 450. Once it's heated up, I'm going to put this in the oven. I'm going to cook this for about an hour and a half, or until all the pears and the cranberries are nice and soft. Then I'm going to take it out, carefully lay over my pie crust on top, and then put it back in the oven until the top of the pie crust is a nice golden brown. Alright, so welcome back to part 2 of pear and cranberry pie. You'll notice in the background, while I've been baking the pie, I'm also cooking my dinner. And that's the great thing about baking is, while you're waiting for the things to bake, you can go ahead and you can do other stuff. So I'm trying to be very careful because the pan, the cast iron, is very hot. But the pears and the cranberries are soft. They're almost completely done, which is great. And now I'm going to take my pie crust and I'm just going to lay it on top. Okay, and it doesn't really fill the whole pie. I should have gotten a bigger crust or using my smaller pan, but I can tuck some of it in. And then I want to create just kind of some openings to let the juices steam out while the pie crust bakes in there. Alright, so I got my pie crust on top. I've got my pie all set. My oven's still at 400. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place this back into the oven until the crust is a golden brown. And it takes about 20-25 minutes for that to happen. Again, being careful because it's hot and the juices are flowing. I hope you enjoyed joining us on this live episode of Cooking with a Veteran. If you like our episodes, make sure that you like and share on our YouTube page and follow us. And if you have any suggestions, send them to me. Until next time, hoorah!